Liam Duffy, who's a counter-extremism expert. We've got a bit of an exclusive here for you on Talk, and it's all about Prevent. You know, that organisation that supposedly is supported by the government and its counter-extremism programme. Basically, they're supposed to be using it to try and make sure that if children are getting radicalised in one way, shape or form, that they somehow get referred to this programme. But it turns out that children now account for over half of all the people referred to and supported by Prevent. Nearly 300 children under the age of 10 were referred to the anti-radicalisation scheme. 14 of them were put on tailor-made counter-terror support programmes. Let's find out what this is about. Liam, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It seems incredibly young, doesn't it, for people to be identified as having been radicalised in some kind of terror programme?
Yeah, I think so. I think the problem here is when people take these referral statistics and extrapolate them out to give some kind of big picture of the terror threat facing the United Kingdom, and that's not really what Prevent referral stats do. Particularly the kind of industry that's sprouted up around Prevent and countering extremism really likes to do this, to use the referrals to kind of justify doing more of this kind of work. But really it tells you a little bit more about the kind of sector and the institutions which are subject to the Prevent duty, as in like that requirement to make these referrals, these reports when people are at risk of radicalisation, which is overwhelmingly the education sector, other areas of the public sector. So really it's about the people that they're coming into contact with. It doesn't actually mean that there's any kind of great terror risk of kind of minors, although the corollary to that is that the police have come out yesterday and kind of indicated that there is a growing threat there. But all I would say is these referrals don't necessarily say that. No,
but what would somebody under the age of 10 be referred to Prevent for example? I mean, I'm trying to sort of figure out in my head what you would have to see a 10-year-old doing to get some kind of referral like that.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of twitchiness, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of nervousness around anything that may be extremism related in the public sector and in the education sector. I mean, it's no, I don't mean this in a kind of political point scoring way, but it's no secret that the education sector, the public sector are kind of overwhelmingly left leaning. So they're going to be a little bit more twitchy around kind of anything they may construe as right wing extremism. So I do think there's a little bit of kind of trigger happiness with certain expressions that these people may deem as like hateful or even crass or inflammatory. But the important thing to note as well is that just because somebody's made a referral, it doesn't necessarily mean that the state is going to take any action towards it. So very few of those referrals actually go on to be channel cases, as they call it.
Right. Well, certainly looking at the numbers, you would appear to be right, because if they've referred 300 children, only 14 of them have actually been put on counter-terror support programmes. That's not a very high number out of 300, is it?
No, precisely. And I think William Shawcross kind of warned about this a little bit in his review, that this Prevent was turning into a bit of a clearinghouse where people were kind of referring any kind of ideology, any kind of vulnerability, as they call it in safeguarding parlance. So because people know that they're going to get support through Prevent. I think the problem is Prevent, if something like Prevent is going to exist, it should exist in the background and only really be there if there's a real risk of somebody going on to, commit an act of terrorism or get involved in a terrorist group. It shouldn't be, oh no, I'm not sure about that, I'm going to refer it. It shouldn't kind of operate like that.
No. And I mean, how do we know what happens to the kids who have been referred and who then don't take any further action against? I mean, are the parents then sort of watched for the rest of time? Are the kids then sort of under surveillance or something like that?
No, nothing like that. Trust me, I've seen Prevent from like the local authority inside. There's definitely not the kind of resources or technical know-how to even do that, even if they wanted to. But it doesn't work like that. I think there are questions around if somebody goes to channel, whether to what extent that information should be stored and for how long and stuff like that. But, a referral, safeguarding referrals get made in schools all the time, every day, for all sorts of different things. So it doesn't necessarily mean, if it's drugs related, gang related, that person's not going to be watched for those concerns for the rest of their life. And that's not what's going to happen with a Prevent referral either.
And we saw with the London Bridge attacker that Prevent wasn't exactly doing its job, didn't we? This was a guy who was being monitored by Prevent, and they'd sort of decided that actually he was probably fine and it was not a problem and he could go to London on his own with his laptop and off he went, and then ended up killing a couple of people. Has anything come from that? Has it been sort of under scrutiny a bit more since then?
Yeah, I think Prevent's always been under scrutiny, but I also think that's correct, that it should be under scrutiny. It's such a sensitive area. You're right to cite that case. There have been quite a few cases now where people have been referred to Prevent, or they've been offered support through Prevent, through Channel, and still gone on to be involved in like a terrorist attack, a terror group, or a terror plot. Yeah, that shows me that, and these stats kind of show me that really Prevent is interacting with not necessarily the right people. It's not necessarily interacting with the people who pose the terror risk. But that's also because the kind of public sector institutions that that are subject to Prevent aren't necessarily interacting with those people. So if you think about, if you're a kind of Salafi jihadist, why on earth would you be interacting with the organs of state that you disagree with? But that's the vehicle to which Prevent is kind of applied throughout the country. So we just need to figure out a way that it's actually better able to, if it, again, like I said, if it continues to exist, a way that it's better able to identify the actual terror risk.
Absolutely. Liam, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Liam Duffy, counter-extremism expert there, talking about the story we've got here as an exclusive. Children accounting for over half of all people referred to and supported by the government's counter-extreme programme Prevent. 300 children under the age of 10 referred to the anti-radicalization scheme. Sounds a bit over the top, doesn't it? By the way, breaking news right now, nationwide rush hour chaos this morning. National Rail has said the issue is affecting, in their words, the communication system used between train drivers and signallers.